Welcome to Baby Boomer Tales. My name is Jim. You can find us at babyboomertales.com. Once you've landed on our webpage, there is our Boomers General Store, our Facebook page, our link to our Shop Tales on Amazon. That's a portal, puts you into Amazon.com, and anything you buy from Amazon, as you enter that portal, we will get a small commission on that stuff ever you buy, with no extra cost to you. It's the way we keep this podcast commercial free, that our Boomers General Store, our book, which there's a link to our book on that webpage also. Thank you for riding along today. It means everything to me. I wouldn't have it any other way, I don't think. I just want to talk a little bit about growing older when you don't have a regular job. The worst thing in the world you can do for yourself is just sit around and not do anything. I'm a firm believer in that, and I try to keep busy. I've owned property out here, and in the summertime I'm very busy doing that. In the wintertime, though, I kind of kick back a little, but I do this podcast, and that keeps me very involved, a couple days a week actually. More than that when I promote it and everything on our Facebook page and all that stuff. But I found this winter that I was starting to get lazier and lazier. I'd find myself not doing anything in the afternoon right after lunch I'd stop doing anything. Maybe sit my butt down in the recliner and watch TV. And all of a sudden I realized, whoa, doggies here, you don't want to get like that. It was probably right after the Christmas holidays, and I'm approaching everything a little different now. This podcast is my job, and I work from, now this is where I got a little weird about it. I'd get up sometimes at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and come into my office and start doing some stuff. So I was justifying after lunch I could just quit for the day. So I've set a quitting time for 3 o'clock now. If I want to be lazy after 3 in the afternoon, that's fine. I don't care what time I get up. If I get up at 3:30 in the morning and start my day, or if I get up at 8:30 in the morning to start my day, my stopping time is now 3. If I work longer than that, and when I'm editing a podcast or something, sometimes I can go until 4 or 5, but I find I get tired, so I have to work till 3. Whatever it is, I don't have to sit at my desk, but I have to do my work. Part of my work is I help my wife around the house a little and all that stuff. Now, I'll see if I have to change my approach to things once I start mowing and cutting down trees and stuff outside. I'm not as excited to do that as I used to be. I think that's coming with age, but I am working till 3 every day. I've got to, because I found that I end up in front of the TV. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with TV, it's fine, but you don't want to be there all day and all night until you go to bed. You just don't want to do that. So that's what I'm doing now, and it's about 11 in the morning right now when I'm recording. I cannot record a podcast in the late afternoon. I'm too tired anymore. It's the weirdest thing. You think that you don't do much anyway and you get tired. But if you're in your 70s, I think you know what I'm talking about. So I like to do that kind of stuff where I have to be fresh. I like to do it in the morning. Also, I need to change my voice a little. I noticed the last few I was sounding too mellow, mellow. So I've got to put a little spark in my voice, so I'm trying to remember to do that. I used to do that, 6 years ago, because I had to learn how to enunciate and stuff better than I had been. Well, anyway, on to something else here. Egg prices are finally coming down. You noticed that. Back in March, I went to buy eggs. I buy 5 dozen at a time at Sam's Club usually. So it's time to buy eggs. And they were out of eggs. So I bought a little 2 dozen thing for an astronomical amount. I was shocked. Well, the last time I was there, I went to buy the 5 dozen. I looked on the website and it said they didn't have those 5 dozen. They barely had any eggs. We all remember that, right? Now, I'm actually recording this in March, but I'm presenting it in April. So I go into that big refrigerator they have there at Sam's Club to get that little 2 dozen package again. And there was a big old pallet full of the 5 dozen boxes. So the way I shop is I scan the item with my phone, scan the barcode, and I just check myself out as I go along there. Just walk out. They don't even question me because AIs follow me. They know if I would be trying to steal something or something. But it works real nice. I like that. So I did that. And the last time I looked, and I didn't buy any of that 5 dozen, it was $24 for 5 dozen. And I thought, oh, goodness gracious. But they had these, and it wasn't on the webpage yet or anything. And it came up $38 for 5 dozen. And the little 2 dozen thing was $9 and something. So I bought those. And I thought, goodness gracious, this is crazy. What are they made out of? Gold? Well, anyway, so I got home and put my eggs up, and my wife said, these eggs aren't large. They look much smaller than that. And we laughed about it and happy we had eggs, etc. Well, just yesterday I looked, and those eggs that said $38 were now $19. So there was just something, a hiccup in their system. They probably didn't really have it entered yet correctly, you know. I probably got there right after they put that pallet in there. So then I looked today and they were 17 something. So the eggs are coming down. Thank goodness. I mean, $38 for 5 dozen eggs? Give me a break. And I do like shopping for eggs at Sam's Club. I'm into buying stuff in bulk pretty much. I can save a little money here and there. Now, if you go to Costco, I'm sure that's the same situation pretty much with whatever you buy. And I buy groceries at 3 different places, basically. Walmart, Sam's Club, and my local grocery store. If I lived in the suburbs, I'd probably have a couple other stores. I love hunting for food bargains. I do. That's what I do. Our song of the week is The Lion Sleeps Tonight. It was originally recorded in 1939 by South African Solomon Linda, and it was named Mambube. Please excuse me if I didn't say that correctly. But Mambube is Zulu for the word lion. Around 1950, Pete Seeger had this song, and he put into it the Wamiawa, 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 however they say that. But that's an old Zulu chant that Seeger mispronounced, and the chant meant, you are a lion. So the way that is in the recording that we know by the Tokens, who recorded it in 1961, that is mispronounced from the correct Zulu word. But the Tokens recorded it in 1961, as I said, and they recorded it as The Lion Sleeps Tonight. And it reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Hush, my darling, don't fear, my darling, the lion sleeps tonight. Our unusual fact is about chickens. Chickens are born with a certain amount of eggs inside them. At 6 months or so, they start laying eggs, and they'll lay several eggs a week for several years, and then they run out of eggs. I guess that's the time you get a drumstick. But their eggs are gone then. Chickens take dirt baths. They make a pit and they roll around in it, and then they shake off. They like to shake off around humans if they can, but they shake that dirt off. It keeps the mites and all that stuff off of them. So they're a clean animal even though they take dirt baths. Chickens will eat anything. Anything. They eat meat. They eat vegetables. Shoot, I think they'll even eat eggplant and tofu. Ugh. There are more chickens in this world than humans. And the last one that I think we all know, I don't know how I knew this, but when I was looking all this stuff up, when I read this part, I thought to myself, I know this. Chickens evolved from dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurus rex to be precise. So when a chicken is chasing you around the barnyard, just know that you could be in Jurassic Park. I have 2 chickens. They're ceramic chickens, and they're in potted plants in the house. The other day, I looked and the comb was broken off of one chicken. I saw it laying in the dirt there, red comb. So I dug that chicken out of the dirt where he was in that potted plant and got the comb and washed him up and glued the comb back on him. And what I noticed about that chicken is his legs had all kind of deteriorated away. And then I went and found his mate. There's another chicken in another potted plant. And that plant is so bushy you couldn't even see him. I had to dig him out of there and put him out. And I washed him up, or her up. Washed her up, okay? And they're ready to go back in potted plants. And it made me remember where I got those chickens. Actually, I got them after my parents died. And my mom had several ceramic things, some ducks, some angels, and these 2 chickens. And I brought them home with me. Well, the way she got those chickens is when I was about 12 years old, my Uncle Vic and Aunt Margaret took me and their daughter Margot to Nebraska, visit my grandparents. I don't know if they took their son Charles with them or not. I can't remember Charles on the trip. But Margot and I, they dumped us off there and went somewhere else. And Margot and I spent several days with Grandma and Grandpa. Now, Margot is several years older than me. And what I remember the most about Margot on the trip is she hit me on the head with a sock full of pennies. Now, I don't know how many pennies there were, and it didn't really injure me, but I remember her doing it. And also, she took my baseball cards and hid them all over Grandma's house, and I was getting cards in the mail from Grandma for years. But while I was at Nebraska, there visiting my grandparents, I went to my grandpa's grocery store and met everybody there, and up and down the street, Grandpa would take me and introduce me to his friends and fellow business people. He also took me out to his farm. He owned a farm, but he lived in town. But we went out into a cornfield, and that was the first time I ever saw corn growing. And I was amazed how tall it was. It was just amazing to me. Grandpa also took me to the Oregon Trail. Their town there was not far from the Oregon Trail, and showed me the ruts that were still visible in the ground from the Oregon Trail. I also made a friend there and went to the swimming pool. I was amazed by the swimming pool. It wasn't heated because it gets hotter than the dickens in Nebraska, right? It's not like up in the mountains where I was born and raised, and swam in a pool that was not heated. I didn't know that was even a thing. They also had a high dive, which was an amazing thing for me. Well, when it came time to go back home, I went to Patty and Wayne's flower shop. Now, Patty was my Uncle Charles's daughter, and Uncle Charles and his business partner, Francis, opened the Trading Post in my little hometown. And I speak about the Trading Post and Francis and Jay and Francis's wife, Elaine, quite often on this podcast. But Patty and Wayne had a flower shop there in that little town in Nebraska. And I bought these 2 chickens to give to my mother when I got home from my big vacation. She had them in her kitchen for years and years. And when we were splitting up all their personal items, my brothers and my sister and me, I'm a sucker for nostalgia more than I am for value. To me, those chickens were more valuable than something of greater value. I would choose those chickens before I chose probably anything else. Some of you may think that's a character flaw, and I think that I wouldn't have it any other way in my life. And so my chickens are ready to go back to the potted plants, and I think I'm going to put them together in a potted plant. Keep that one away from the plant that you couldn't even see her in. The chickens mean the world to me. I think of my mother when I look at them. I don't know if I got my dad anything, probably not. It was probably the chickens for both mom and dad. You know what I mean? I'm amazed that I had it together to take my parents a gift home from vacation. Right there, that tells me that maybe I had it more together as a child than I remember having it together. Maybe I wasn't as selfish as I remember being. Maybe I used money that I would have normally used to buy baseball cards to buy those chickens from Patty and Wayne. I don't know what'll happen to them once I'm dead and gone. I'll probably end up in the trash. But to me, they are a prize of great value. That's my time today. I'm glad that egg prices have come down. Always be kind. There's no better way to live this life. I'll be back next Wednesday. Peace out.